Okay, good morning, everyone, or afternoon, I guess, depending on what time zone you're in right now. We're here for our first of many Ask Me Anything sessions where you can jump into the comments, you can ask questions live, but we're going to be talking about a topic pretty much every time we meet. Your questions can be about this topic or it can be about something completely different. But all of these will be available later on our website and our YouTube. So if you miss it, you can go back and you can watch it later. I want to introduce briefly Maria. Maria is a military spouse as well. Hi, Maria.
Hi, Kayla.
Maria is with her family right now, so we may lose her for a second. So what I want to do is go ahead and get started with Maria first, so she can talk a little bit about the history behind what we're doing or what we're going to be discussing today, which is the DoD meal allowance pilot. Maria?
Thanks, Kayla. This is such a big deal and a couple years in work making this happen. And so I wanted to share where it started. So a couple years ago, we started having airmen reach out saying, hey, they started separating our meal costs for daycare from our fee assistance. So they were already receiving fee assistance, which is really important. If you have questions about that, please reach out. That should be a very straightforward process for all of our military families. And if it's not, we're here to help. And so we started hearing that these costs were being separated and families hadn't budgeted for that. And this is right about the time that you were hearing across the country this idea of food insecurity, specifically with our military families. And so we had families, many families, reaching out saying that they were sending their children to daycare without food because they could not afford that additional cost. It wasn't in their budget. And this is the same time the whole economy is starting to experience those increasing expenses. And so we started digging into it, started doing the research, and realized it was more prevalent than just a couple families reaching out. Those were the ones that knew who to talk to and knew how to ask for help. And we realized it was far more systemic than that. And so we put together the plans with some superheroes across the Air Force to really bring this to the attention of our leaders. And our leaders listened. It took a while to make sure the program was done correctly so that it wasn't just one branch getting the support, but in fact, it was an OSD plan. And so this is the solution they have offered families. This is the meal allowance. So now if your program is separating them, you have a means of getting help. So big, huge thanks to folks that are out there doing the work to be available, to listen to families, and to elevate those all the way up to our leaders, because our leaders do want to know and they really do want to get after the problems, but we have to get that data sometimes for them. So if things aren't going right, if you need help, please ask for help. And we're always looking for things that are more than just, the one-off, if you will. Thanks, Kayla.
Thank you, Maria. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about who is eligible for this. So the MCCYN program, the Military Child Care in Your Neighborhood program, if you are already enrolled in that program, then you have eligibility for this as well. So this is something that goes in addition to your current assistance. So if you are already receiving assistance now, you are not automatically enrolled into this meal allowance pilot. You have to request it. So you may be missing out on money. And so what I want to do is kind of talk about what that looks like. You need to be full-time. So this is not available for before and after school. This is not available for part-time care. It is full-time care only. So if you are currently enrolled or if you're going to enroll and utilize the military fee assistance full-time, we're going to kind of talk about that. On our website, we built in a little bit about how to figure out if you're eligible for this. And there's a few factors. There's also the option for if you go to, let me make sure that we can see my screen. Perfect. On the militarychildcare.com site, there is frequently asked questions where they talk a little bit about this around the eligibility. And it essentially comes down to two scenarios. So one is if your lunch or infant formula, and so we know that pretty much no civilian centers are offering infants formula. That's something that is like above and beyond. So this is especially something for our infant parents to be listening to. If they are not offering infant formula during the day, you could qualify for this. If it's not included as part of your weekly or monthly fee, then you can qualify for this. In addition, if your provider fee, so if your rate is higher than $1,800 a month, and I'm really looking at you, DC area, some Colorado, some California, where your rates are just exorbitant. So you're looking at paying like $450 to $500 a week per child. You would also qualify for this even if the food is included. So these are the basic overarching principles. So what we did over here on our website, which let me switch over to this. That's the link to it, is you can use our tool here to figure out what could this look like for your family. And so when you go to that website, the intention here was to make it as simple as possible. So you see if you're at a high cost installation, and we are updating this as we find out more installations are switching to high cost. You'll need to know what your CDC rate is. And then you come down to your type of care. So I already put an example in here because this is what I'm going to show you kind of from start to finish so that you have something you can work off of as well. Assume you have already applied, and we'll talk about what that looks like. And you want to know, am I actually eligible for this? You can use this to go through, click full-time, put in your weekly childcare cost. So as you see here, our rate cap is $1,800. And what is my monthly childcare cost? Over $1,800. So that means even if food is included, I could be eligible for this. We would know that by moving down here. So are meals included in tuition? Yes. And then is your monthly care cost higher? Yes. And so what it does is auto calculate for you what you should expect moving forward. It works the other way around. So if you're full-time, and yes, if you're not higher, but say you are charged for meals separately, and that might be where you can participate in a meal program or you can bring the meals, whatever that might look like at your school, you select this and it will also calculate that for you. So either way, you're going to be able to see kind of what that difference would be. So how do you apply? We do have the link for the enrollment form here. And the app, what it's going to do is it's going to open up for you this sheet where you can download this. So when if you're already in care, so if you're already utilizing it, but you haven't been able to access this fee assistance yet, what you can do is go to the link. We linked it here on our website. It's also linked down here at the MCC Central if you want to find it there. And you're going to fill out this form. It's going to look very reminiscent of the provider cost verification form that you probably filled out recently. We're going to do it again. Fill this out all the way through. Your provider is going to sign it. And then what you're going to do is email this. And this is going to differ depending on if you are Navy or if you're the other branches. So if you're Navy, let me show you, and this will be on your MCC site, and we'll also drop it in the comments. So if you're Navy, when you complete this form, you're going to go ahead and send this out to the family support here at FCT. Now, if you are Army, Air Force, Space Force, Marines, you are going to send it to just the MSP at childcarewarehere.org because they are the ones who are running your program currently. They will process that and you will get an updated certificate. So you've seen them before. What you need to know is that we have not seen any families be notified that they've been accepted into the program. They just get either an updated certificate if they're already in the program, or if they are enrolling for the very first time. And so they're submitting their provider cost verification and this form, it's going to show up on their certificate. And you're only really going to know you have access through a little bit of backwards math. So let me show you what that looks like. We had a family recently who volunteered to let us use their rate sheet. And so here's their rate sheet. The numbers that I want you to note here, this family did go ahead and apply for the meal allowance pilot in combination with applying for this program. So this certificate came just at one time. And so the numbers I want you to focus on here are the $22.33 as the provider rate, and then the fee assistance at $9.30. So let me move this so I can open back up our calculator to show you how you can figure out, did you get access to this program or not? So you know if you need to request additional assistance. Ours is done by weekly. So I divided, all of the calculations are done for your weekly care cost on a civilian side by multiplying your weekly rate times 4.33. Sometimes they provide you a monthly rate. And in that case, the way our calculator is built, unfortunately, you're going to have to divide that by 4.33, but we'll work on updating that. So you'll enter in your weekly cost. So I went ahead and divided that 2233 by 4.33 to get a weekly cost. So we added up here. It does a little bit of rounding. And then we're going to, we know that this family is at the cap for the monthly CDC rate, which means they're in a high cost installation. So I went to my high cost form, which you will find here. I went to my high cost form, oops. And they are the highest category, so the 973. So when I enter in that 973, I see the monthly care cost, the monthly assistance at 827. Remember, on our form here, we saw our fee assistance is at 930. So that's about $100 difference. And so if we were to scroll down here, that's where we see our updated numbers. So if you were not aware, there was rounding for all of these programs. So whether it's Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps, whatever it might be, they always round. So even if your provider charges you, 922.20, they will round that down to 922 or round it up to 923. So there's always going to be a little bit of a margin of error here. But overall, this will give you about an idea of whether you have gotten access to that program or not. So if you have not already applied for the meal allowance pilot and you fall into one of those categories of either you are paying more than $1,800 a month, which is the rate cap, and meals are included, you can go ahead and get that additional fee assistance. Or if you are not, if your meals are not included and you're paying less than $1,800 a month, you can still go ahead and get that additional meal assistance. We want as many families to use it as possible. Unfortunately, what we don't know is how much funding this has or how many slots are available. As we find out, we will absolutely let you guys know. But as of right now, we want as many people to use it as possible to really drive that demand. And I will, let me update this link for you guys, the banner. Here we go. And so if you have any questions about this, if you're not sure where to send it, or maybe you did send it and you haven't heard anything back, you're always welcome to reach out to our case management system. So I put the link down there and we can go in, take a look at everything together and figure out what the best path forward for you is. And I think Maria had to drop off, and that's okay. So we are going to go ahead. I don't see any questions. So what we'll do is go ahead and wrap this up. And like I said, we'll save this on our website. We'll save this on Facebook. Let this be a resource for when you do have questions about how to access this program. Oh, there is a question. So the eligibility criteria, great question. Sarah asked a question, is there an eligibility criteria for receiving services from OCCP? And there is, and it's broad. So that's great news. Our case management serves active duty reserves, retired, veterans, DoD civilians. The way that we've set it up is that if you've served the mission, you can come into our case management and we'll serve you. We understand that the mission succeeds because everyone comes together. It's not really just an active duty situation. And since every one of these demographics really does have its own unique struggles, it's important that we cover all of them in order to get that data and also see greater success among families. Thank you for the question. Okay, I think we're paused on questions, and that's okay. So again, we will save this to our website. If there are additional questions that get dropped into the chat after I close this, I can always come back and answer those as well. And then we will have another Ask Me Anything in 2 weeks that is public. So you can drop questions in this for next week, or look for our social media to come out and ask who has questions now, and we can always circle those in too. Thanks, everyone. Take care.